So recently in Japan, there was a massive anime convention called Jump Festa. And within the confines of this massive anime festival, there was announcements made about dozens of different anime. There was Pokemon announcements, there was Dragon Ball announcements, and there was, most importantly, Naruto announcements. Now, we've already posted a video on what the biggest Naruto announcement was. It's the last video on this page if you're interested in watching it. But in summation, basically the big bad reveal of this Naruto announcement in Jump Festa was that Sasuke Retsudan is getting animated. Now, it's being animated within the confines of Boruto, so a lot of people who don't watch Boruto probably will never see it. But that means for about 8 to 12 weeks in Boruto, it won't be anime canon nonsense, it'll be manga canon content for the first time in over a year and a half. And also technically, the Sasuke Retsudan light novel has absolutely nothing to do with Boruto's timeline, so you can just watch it as a Naruto fan and just enjoy seeing Sasuke and Sakura take the lead of the show. That's not what we're going to talk about today. See, today we're going to talk about the first announcement in the Naruto announcement schedule. The announcement that was dubbed Naruto P99. Now, while a lot of people just brushed this announcement off as an appetizer for the third and final announcement, if anything, I would argue that this was the most important announcement of all of them. For those of you who didn't watch Jump Festa or haven't seen any reviews of Jump Festa and what Naruto P99 is, it is a worldwide popularity poll. Now, popularity polls within anime and manga are nothing new. In fact, almost every single time a volume of a manga is released, there's a popularity poll done, and then the mangaka will draw the winners of that popularity poll and in what position they are. Fun fact, in the first popularity poll of Chainsaw Man, Kobeni lost to her car, in terms of popularity, that is.
So Nick, if popularity contests are nothing new and nothing special, why are we talking about this like it's something new or something special?
Well, for one, usually these popularity contests stay within Japan, and people like American or Indian or Chinese or Australian or English audiences do not get to vote, which has always seemed interesting to me when we consider the fact that different characters are popular in different areas for different reasons. But Naruto P99 is also a lot more than just a popularity ranking. See, because the winner of this popularity ranking doesn't just get a pat on the back and a good job. The winner of this popularity ranking gets their own short manga drawn and written by Kishimoto. Now, what a short manga means, we don't really know. Does that mean one chapter? Does that mean one volume? It's kind of up in the air. I think we can all agree that one chapter would be egregiously short, but one volume would probably be way too long. Considering the entirety of Sasuke Retsudan's manga is probably going to end up being around a volume, because a volume is usually 10 chapters. So I believe that we should shoot our expectations for this short manga somewhere in between 1 and 10 chapters. And that sounds relatively lackluster, I know. Why should I care about a story that's gonna be less than 10 chapters long? Because with the power of this popularity contest, we have the chance to have age-old questions answered. We could take dives into characters that have been enigmas for the entirety of Naruto's run. We could shine lights on the darkest moments in Naruto's history. We could get informed about things we've never had information on. Obviously, the unfortunate aspect of a popularity contest is that the most popular people will probably win it. Naruto, Sasuke, Minato, Kakashi, but we know the entirety of the life story of 3 of those 4 people. We do not need more Kakashi content. We do not need more Sasuke content, more Naruto content, more Itachi content. Itachi has 2 light novels and plays a massive role in both the anime and the manga. Sasuke has 3 light novels and is the co-protagonist. Kakashi has 2 separate light novels and is basically the co-protagonist of the show, and the show is called Naruto. So if you shouldn't be voting for the most popular people, who should you be voting for? Well, I've actually curated a list of the best possible people for you to vote for in Naruto P99. The kind of people whose stories would shine light on massive question marks we as a Naruto community have. The kind of people whose stories, once brought to life, could get so much traction that a real manga is made about them. But before we get into my list, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you like being keyed into Naruto news, you're probably gonna also love being keyed into all anime news, and that's what I do on my other page, The Weeb Commander, where we talk any anime that's not Naruto. So, if we're not voting for Itachi, Kakashi, Naruto, or Sasuke, who really is the best person to win this popularity poll? Well, there's 4 really good answers, 2 okay answers, and 1 hilarious meme. So let's start with the really good answers. The kind of answers that would allow us to peep into parts of Naruto's history that we've never seen. Those characters who played incredibly important roles, but from the sidelines. Characters who shaped the history of Naruto, but never got their time in the spotlight. The first and most potent example of this, I genuinely believe, is Ashina Uzumaki. See, Ashina Uzumaki, for those of you who don't live, breathe, and sleep Naruto, was the head of the Uzumaki clan. Ashina Uzumaki was an ally of Hashirama, and they fought together side by side during the Warring States period. After the Warring States period came to a close and Madara and Hashirama came together to create Konoha, Ashina Uzumaki played an incredibly pivotal role in the creation of Konoha and the continuation of its power. You see, Ashina Uzumaki and the rest of the Uzumakis resided in the Land of Whirlpools, a village on the outskirts of the Land of Fire, right by the ocean. And upon Konoha's founding, they immediately made an alliance with the Uzumaki. This can be seen in the fact that every single Jonin vest has the symbol of the Land of Whirlpools on the back. You know that swirly symbol? That's the Uzumaki clan symbol. And on top of this, there was a political wedding made between Mito Uzumaki and Hashirama in order to ensure that peace would always exist between the Uzumakis and Konoha. Now, this was done for the benefit of the Uzumaki and Konoha, as the Uzumaki were arguably the strongest clan in existence outside of either the Senju or the Uchiha, and therefore making them an ally to the newly founded village made Konoha that much stronger. On top of that, the Uzumaki were the greatest users of Fuinjutsu in the entirety of the Naruto universe, where every single Uzumaki was able to use a thing called adamantite chains, a jutsu where chains made out of the hardest material in the entirety of Naruto shoot out of the user's back. These chains were so powerful, one Uzumaki by themselves would be able to capture and contain a tailed beast. Kushina, after Kurama broke out of her, was able to hold Kurama relatively still. On top of this, the Uzumaki were responsible for creating the Reaper Death Seal and responsible for creating outposts all around Konoha that housed Reaper Death Seal masks, that upon dawning, the user would summon the Shinigami and be able to do things like cut their own belly open like Orochimaru did to the Shinigami. It's also heavily implied that the Uzumaki life force was so insanely powerful that they could use the Reaper Death Seal and survive, as people like Mita Uzumaki were able to have Kurama pulled out of her and still continue living for decades. If we were to hypothetically get a story about Ashina Uzumaki, we would not only get a look into the earliest days of Konoha, we could also possibly get a closer look into the Warring States period, and possibly more significantly than anything, a look into the fall of the Uzumaki clan. See, we know that the Uzumaki clan was eradicated by 4 of the 5 major villages. Essentially, everybody but Konoha teamed up to kill the Uzumaki. If we were to get a look into Ashina Uzumaki and therefore the Uzumaki story, we could get a closer look into the fall of the Uzumaki clan and how a clan that was hailed to be equally as strong as the Uchiha and the Senju fell. See, we know why they were killed. After the introduction of the tailed beast, their Fuinjutsu held too much promise for capturing tailed beasts. But we don't know how they were killed. And a story revolving around Ashina Uzumaki would give us that answer, as the Uzumaki clan downfall falls in the blank period between the First and Third Great Shinobi World Wars. But since we're talking about the blank period between the First and Third Great Shinobi World Wars, we should talk about the second entry on our A-tier list, and that would be none other than the hero of the Second Great Shinobi World War, Sakumo Hatake. See, Sakumo Hatake was the father of Kakashi, hailed as the White Fang of Konoha, a man so dangerous he basically single-handedly won the Second Great Shinobi World War for Konoha. His white hair and white chakra blade earned him a run-on-site order from every other village. So much so that years after his death, when Kakashi was fighting in the Third Great Shinobi World War, Iwa Shinobi ran on site because they thought he was his father. Sakumo Hatake lived arguably one of the most interesting lives in the history of Naruto, as he led the offensive into the Land of Wind during the Second Great Shinobi World War, where he was responsible for killing Sasori's parents. On top of that, he served as arguably one of the biggest talking points in Naruto, because the circumstances revolving his death basically shaped Kakashi's entire personality, giving Kakashi the ideology of those who break rules are scum, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than scum, and the fact that Sakumo Hatake was said to be stronger than the 3 legendary Sannin combined. Yet that's really all we know about Sakumo Hatake. He was the hero of the Second Great Shinobi World War. He was known as the White Fang. He killed Sasori's parents. He killed himself, and he was stronger than the 3 legendary Sannin combined. If we were to hypothetically get a short manga written about Sakumo Hatake, not only would we get to see one of the strongest characters in Naruto history battle, and live. We would also get a look into the Second Great Shinobi World War. The war where the three legendary Sannin came into combat against Hanzo of the Salamander. The war that destroyed the village hidden in the rain. The war that made Nagato, Konan, and Yahiko orphans. The war that made Sasori an orphan. The war where Granny Chiyo and Lani Tsunade were in a battle to see who could either poison more or cure more poison. And more importantly than anything, the war where Sakumo Hatsuke became the legend of the White Fang. There are so many things that could be captured in a story about Sakumo Hatake, it's almost impossible to list them all. And yet, in such a character development rich time period, we have next to no information. And thus a story about Sakumo Hatake could give us that. But Sakumo Hatake isn't our only look into this time period, as there's another person who could not only give us a look into the Second Great Shinobi World War, but the third as well. See, Sakumo Hatake wasn't the only man who got a nickname on the battlefield. During the Third Great Shinobi World War, Fugaku Uchiha, Itachi and Sasuke's father, became known as Fugaku of the Wicked Eye, a man whose Sharingan prowess was so intimidating that just like Sakumo Hatake, upon being seen on the battlefield, he was given a run-on-sight order, as seeing his Wicked Eye was guaranteed death. Now, as it currently stands, Fugaku's MS is only anime canon, and even though it's only anime canon, it is my favorite design for an MS out of anybody's. I mean, look at this thing. But unfortunately, just like Sakumo Hatake, Fugaku is hailed as this legendary character who's formed the history of Konoha, and yet we know next to nothing about him. We know that he took Itachi out into the battlefield of the Third Great Shinobi World War when Itachi was 4. We know that he became Fugaku of the Wicked Eye and was hailed as a hero within Konoha for his exploits in that same war. We know that he was the leader of the Uchiha and one of the most outspoken voices when it came to rallying the coup. And we know that he might possibly have had an MS and was killed at 40 by Itachi. But this man was the runner-up for the 4th Hokage. In fact, the Uchiha clan believed it was such a runaway race that Fugaku would become the 4th Hokage that they almost revolted when he didn't become the 4th Hokage. Now, while obviously some of Fugaku's story is told within the confines of Itachi's 2 light novels, that's not the time period I'm curious about. Show me why Fugaku became Fugaku of the Wicked Eye. Show me why Fugaku was the only person during the Third Great Shinobi World War outside of Minato to have a run-on-sight order. Show me Fugaku growing up seeing Minato as a rival. Show me Fugaku growing into the Uchiha clan during its time of civil unrest and taking the mantle through sheer power and leadership. And what's best about Fugaku is that he lived through the Second Great Shinobi World War. He might have been a genin during it, as he was 40 when he died and Itachi killed him when he was 13, and we know that Itachi was alive during the Third Great Shinobi World War as a 4-year-old, which implies that Fugaku was fighting in the Third Great Shinobi World War when he was 30 years old, meaning that there is a high, and I mean high possibility that Fugaku also fought in the Second Great Shinobi World War. And in the fell swoop of a short manga about one character, we could get a look into both the Second and Third Great Shinobi World Wars, while also keeping a scope on the Uchiha clan during one of their most tumultuous times of all time. On top of this, Obito lived within the Uchiha clan during this time period. Show me Obito's parents, show me Itachi's birth, show me Sasuke's birth, and give me a story between Fugaku and Minato in their rivalry to become the 4th Hokage. Though Fugaku and Minato are about 9 to 10 years separate in terms of age, so they might have not been that much of a rival. But since we're talking about Minato, let's talk about the person who has an actual legitimate chance to win this popularity poll. That person being Minato. Minato serves all of the same purposes as Fugaku plot-wise, except for the fact that he almost definitely did not fight during the Second Great Shinobi World War. But that's not necessarily a detractor when we're talking about Minato, because Minato was alive during the Second Great Shinobi World War, which means we could see what was going on in Konoha while the Second Great Shinobi World War was happening. And now that I'm thinking about it, since he was a child of such incredible talent, there is a possibility he was sent out during the Second Great Shinobi World War. But what we do know about Minato is that he was absolutely very much a part of the Third Great Shinobi World War, where he came into combat against Killer B in A, the 4th Raikage, where he stopped the Third Great Shinobi World War by killing 1,000 Iwa Shinobi by himself. If Minato were to be chosen for a short manga, he would give us a different perspective of what was going on during this blank period of the Second and Third Great Shinobi World Wars, as the plot wouldn't take place within the Uchiha clan, but we could possibly get a look into Minato's parents, what the Namikaze clan was, his love story with Kushina. And the reason that I believe Minato is actually probably the best choice for your vote is that a short manga about Minato has the best chance of succeeding and shining light on the darkest parts of Naruto's story plot-wise. Yes, obviously people would read just because they like Minato, but we would also get a look into the creation of the Rasengan, Minato trying to add wind release to it. We would get to see him interact with Jiraiya as Jiraiya was his sensei. We could see Minato master Sage Mode at Mount Muabuko. And more than anything, I believe that a short manga about Minato would show Kishimoto that there is very much interest in Minato getting his own story. And just like that, it could be the opening of a door to Minato, Naruto, the previous generations. I mean, look at what we're seeing right now. A light novel in Sasuke Retsudan is getting its own manga, which is subsequently being turned into its own anime arc, which means that this short manga could absolutely be turned into animation. And while obviously a story about Fugaku, Ashina, or Sakumo Hatsuke would be incredible, I believe if we were to hypothetically get this popularity poll to be about Minato, the snowball effect, the pressure and the money this could make for Viz, Soesha, and Kishimoto would be undeniable. So while I believe you're completely justified for voting for any of those 4 people, the most we could probably milk out of this situation in terms of content would be Minato, and therefore Minato is the person I will be voting for. But the real question is, how do you vote? Well, you're allowed to vote once a day, every single day until January 31st. All you have to do is scan the QR code on the screen right now and enter a vote every single day. You can also show off your vote on Twitter with the hashtag NarutoP99 to show support and get a little momentum going for whoever you're voting for. But those aren't the only possible people you can vote for. There's a couple of other options that are good, though not as good as the ones I've already laid out. And those 3 would start off with Monkey King Enma. This is more of just a personal preference type beat. I believe that Monkey King Enma is arguably the strongest summoning animal in the history of summoning animals. The only one really giving Monkey King Enma a run for his money is Lady Katsuya. But Monkey King Enma and all of the monkey summons are kind of an enigma. One, they're based off Sun Wukong, as the term Monkey King is quite literally designated to Sun Wukong. But more than that, Monkey King Enma is able to turn himself into an adamantite extendable staff. And as adamantite is the hardest material on Earth, this is a pretty powerful feat. But I believe a story about Monkey King Enma would allow us to get a look into how the contract between the monkeys and the Sarutobis were created in the first place. It could also possibly give us a look into if Monkey Sage exists and why Sarutobis haven't mastered it. It could also possibly give us a look into Konohamaru and his summon, Enna. But once again, I fully understand that that is far from voting for Minato. After Monkey King Enma, we have a very similar vote, Son Goku. See, Son Goku is the Four Tails, and the only reason I would say we should vote for Son Goku is because he's called the King of the Monkey Sages. And while obviously Son Goku having lava release and therefore all of his Jinchurikis having lava release is cool, I want to know why Son Goku is called the King of the Monkey Sages, once again giving us the possibility to reveal if Monkey Sage exists. After that, keeping on track with the Sarutobi thing, there's Sasuke Sarutobi. See, Sasuke Sarutobi is actually a real Japanese figure. Well, at least within folklore. Sasuke Sarutobi is the most famous ninja in Japan's history. His real life entity is who Sasuke and the Sarutobi clan are named after. And he also exists within the confines of Naruto. In fact, Sasuke Sarutobi was Hiruzen's father, and he was said to be a ninja of legendary renown. In fact, he was said to be a ninja of such legendary renown that Mikoto, Sasuke's mother, named Sasuke after him. But unfortunately, that's all we really know about Sasuke Sarutobi, that he's just this legend of Konoha. And considering the fact that he was Hiruzen's father, that would largely imply that he fought side by side with Hashirama during the Warring States period, as the Sarutobis were aligned with the Senju. But I think technically because he hasn't made an appearance in the manga, he's probably not up for vote, so that's a dumb answer. I'd like to say officially that this was Nick's idea to include him. And then lastly, I know I said we've already talked about our 4 best answers, but at the end of the day, I've been saving the best for last. You see, Minato is fine and all because the story about him might actually spin off into a real manga that turns into its own anime. But if we wrote a story about Minato, we'd be ignoring the real goat of Naruto, the person so fast and so powerful, even the drawers of the manga couldn't draw her. Artist is a good word for drawer. Yes, of course, I'm talking about none other than Tenten. Yes, the character who got less screen time than a swing and a literal pig in Tauntaun, Tenten. The character whose best move is jumping in the air and unfurling a couple of scrolls and grabbing blades out of them to throw at somebody. The character who was able to use one of the Sage of Six Paths weapons once. A character that was said to be on the screen constantly, but was so fast that the animators couldn't keep up with her. And while it might sound like I'm memeing, a story about 1010 could actually answer a couple of important questions. The first of which being, is she Metal Lee's mother? Did she get Rock Lee's drunken fist to create Metal Lee? The second question being, do the Gold and Silver brothers still exist within the Sage of Six Paths treasured tools? And if they do, does their Kurama chakra still exist within those tools? And if their Kurama chakra does still exist within those tools, then Kurama also still exists. And the third of which being, could the animators learn to keep up with her speed? Answers we wouldn't be able to get unless, of course, got a 1010 manga. But of course, in reality, I'm memeing. Arguably, if you should be voting for anybody in the Naruto P99 popularity polls, it should be Minato, though I couldn't fault you for Fugaku, Ashina, or Sakumo. But what do you guys think? Who do you want to vote for in the popularity contests? Who do you want to see get their own manga? Tell me in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Listen, if you want the show that's gonna end Boruto, Minato is really the only one who can do it.